There's a moment every Ghibli fan remembers. The exact second when the studio's quiet, painterly world building wraps around you and makes reality feel a little thinner, a little softer. Howl's Moving Castle captures that sensation more than most, not through its spells or its shapeshifters, but through the oddly comforting magic that Studio Ghibli specializes in. Stories that feel lived in, warm and emotionally sincere, and as an anime fan, I have seen countless fantasy epics, romances and coming-of-age tales, yet Howl's Moving Castle stands out because the fantastical elements never overwhelm the human ones. Beneath every whimsical detail, there's a grounded core about identity, courage, and how we rise, or crumble, when life demands something new from us. At first glance, the film presents itself as a fairy tale rift with curses, kingdoms at war, and a wizard with a notoriously fickle heart. But once you settle into the moving castle's clattering metal limbs and drifting smoke, the real story reveals itself. This is a movie about finding one's worth in a world eager to find you before you define yourself. Sophie's journey, more than Howl's volatile magic or Calcifer's firebound sarcasm, is the emotional engine that pulls us, the viewer, through. Her curse isn't simply a magical complication, it's a mirror. It reflects her self-doubt, her perceived ordinariness, her belief that she somehow deserves less than what she dreams of. The beauty of Ghibli's storytelling is that none of this is handed to the viewer explicitly. The film breathes, it invites us to notice, to feel, and to inhabit its spaces just as its characters do. And that's where the magic really lies. Not solely in sorcery or spectacle, but in how these elements amplify the human experience. By the time the castle teeters on the edge of collapse near the end, we realize that's what's truly at stake. The soft, vulnerable parts of ourselves we're finally ready to protect. That, more than anything, is where the enchantment of Howl's Moving Castle truly lives. Hey, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that noti bell because it really helps out. Sophie is one of those protagonists who sneaks up on you. When we first meet her, she's almost deliberately plain. Not visually, but emotionally. She's tucked into a routine life, working quietly in her father's hat shop, while the world outside bustles with color and noise. In a lot of anime, protagonists are cast into adventure reluctantly, but Sophie slips into hers almost by complete accident, as if the story has been patiently waiting for her to look up and notice it. Her transformation into an elderly woman isn't just a plot-inciting incident, it's the external manifestation of years of internal self-diminishment. She has spent so long believing she's unremarkable that when she physically becomes someone ordinary, she simply accepts it with almost unsettling ease. What makes her compelling, though, is that she never wallows. Even in her elderly form, she adapts with surprising resilience. That quiet strength is what makes Sophie feel deeply real. Anime is filled with fiery heroines, girls who battle destiny with shouting, declarations or spectacle, but Sophie's power isn't loud, it is persistent. She moves forward because she must, because life doesn't pause for self-doubt. There's something profoundly relatable in the way she sweeps floors, tidies spaces, and tends to others even when her own world begins to fall apart. In many ways, this is where Ghibli shines, finding heroism within the mundane. Her interactions with Howl further reveal this understated bravery. While others fear or idolize him, Sophie treats him like a person, moody, fragile, brilliant, and sometimes utterly ridiculous. One of the film's most iconic scenes, where Howl has a melodramatic breakdown because his hair has changed color, perfectly illustrates their dynamic. Sophie, wrinkled and hunched, marched right past the theatrics to handle the situation with pragmatic care. It's one of those rare moments where she confronts chaos with confidence, a trait she didn't believe she possessed at all. She steps into the role not because she sees herself as capable, but because someone has to be. Howl is one of the most mesmerizing characters in Ghibli's entire filmography, not because he's powerful, but because he's paradoxically delicate. Anime is full of flamboyant, dramatic wizards and male protagonists, but Howl's theatrical personality hides something far more poignant, a deep, persistent fear of being truly seen. From the moment he glides onto the screen in that floating stroll across the rooftops, he embodies effortless beauty, charm and mystery, but beneath those feathers, illusions and shape-shifting forms lies a character drowning in emotional complexity. What makes Howl so compelling is that he defies the typical mystery bad boy trope. Yes, he's aloof. Yes, he disappears for hours on end, makes questionable deals, and literally transforms into a giant bird demon whenever he feels like avoiding his responsibilities. But unlike many similar characters, his emotional turmoil isn't romanticized, it's exposed with raw vulnerability. He's plainly just scared. Terrified even. Terrified of war, of losing control, of becoming a monster, of letting people down, of caring too deeply. The magic he wields so gracefully is both a gift and a burden. It's eating away at him, physically, mentally, spiritually, where his relationship with Calcifer is the clearest symbol of this. Howl gave up his heart as a child, not out of greed or ambition, but out of kindness, saving Calcifer from dying and unknowingly binding himself to a lifetime of magical imbalance. It's a decision rooted in compassion, yet it comes with consequences he never fully could have understood at such a young age. That's the foundation of Howl's emotional fragility. He is powerful, but never whole. The war raging outside mirrors his own internal struggle. Ghibli has always portrayed war as senseless, devastating, and deeply personal for those caught in its wake. For Howl, the war is both a literal threat and a metaphor for the destruction he fears within himself. Every time he flies into battle, he digs himself deeper into a transformation he may never return from. It is genuinely heartbreaking to watch, because he's not fighting for glory or allegiance, he's fighting because he feels obligated, because he doesn't want to watch innocent people suffer. Yet every act of protection chips away at another piece of the human form he is barely hanging on to. Howl's vulnerability becomes even more pronounced in the domestic scenes within the moving castle. These moments, him cooking breakfast, wandering through portals to different towns, or coexisting with Sophie's quiet diligence, highlights the parts of him that crave normalcy. The castle, messy and creaking, is almost a metaphor for Howl himself. Magical, unpredictable, and beautiful, but also incredibly unstable and in need of grounding. And Sophie provides that grounding simply by being herself. Their dynamic is one of the film's most emotionally powerful anchors. Sophie doesn't chase Howl, idolize him, or try to change him. She sees him, truly sees him, in a way few others ever managed to. She recognizes his goodness even when he doesn't. She comforts him without enabling him. She supports him without surrendering her own voice. And in return, Howl begins to show her the parts of himself he hides from everyone else. The scene where he admits he wants to protect her, not through flashy magic, but by shielding her from the senseless war, is one of the most quietly devastating moments in Ghibli's romance storytelling. Howl's words reveals how deeply she has managed to change him, but perhaps the most magical aspect of Howl's character is that he doesn't need to be fixed or redeemed. Ghibli never treats emotional vulnerability as a flaw, instead they frame it as an inherent part of who the characters are. Someone who feels deeply, someone who fears deeply, someone who loves deeply. Howl's magic isn't the story's true enchantment, his heart is. Magic in Howl's Moving Castle isn't the kind that dominates most fantasy anime. There are no elaborate power systems, no spell casting competitions, no massive explosions meant to dazzle viewers. Instead, Ghibli takes a quieter, more symbolic approach. Magic here is woven into the fabric of ordinary life, used less as an external spectacle, and more as a reflection of the characters' inner worlds. It's a storytelling philosophy that Miyazaki has perfected. Magic is not just something characters use, but something they feel, embody, and grow through. Take the moving castle itself. It's a literal jumble of architectural chaos, yet it functions as a living extension of Howl. Complicated, unstable, enchanting, and just full of secrets. Its shifting rooms and portals are metaphors for emotional barriers and hidden pasts. When Sophie cleans the castle, she isn't just tidying a space, she's repairing the fractured pieces of Howl's life, gently rearranging them into something livable. The castle therefore becomes a visual representation of how care, presence, and connection can transform not just environments, but people. Similarly, Sophie's curse isn't treated like a typical fantasy affliction. There's no clear antagonist controlling it, no straightforward method to break it, where instead the curse reacts to her emotional state, her confidence, fears, hopes, and moments of vulnerability. It's magic used as a metaphor, reminding viewers that self-doubt can age us, weigh us down, and distort us the way in which we see ourselves. But just as powerfully, love, courage, and self-acceptance can restore what was lost, this is a very Ghibli approach to storytelling. Quiet, emotional truth, rendered through fantastical means. Then there's Calcifer, whose entire existence is a testament to Ghibli's unique magical philosophy. He is fire, warmth, danger, transformation. He is both the heart of the castle and the heart of Howl himself. But rather than being portrayed as a grand mythical creature, he's small, sarcastic, and almost comically overworked. His magic is domestic. It cooks breakfast, heats bathwater, and grumbles while holding up the castle's legs. Its enchantment through the lens of everyday necessity, which is one of the most charming aspects of this film. Even the war magic operates within this ethos. Rather than glorifying destruction, the film shows its grotesque, unnatural form. War magic is ugly, chaotic, and hollow, more curse than power. Ghibli does not shy away from the horror or conflict of war, but it refuses to glamorize it. Ghibli doesn't shy away from the horror or conflict of war, it refuses to glamorize it. The contrast between the violent magic outside the castle and the warm domestic magic inside it is deliberate. One is fueled by fear and domination, the other by compassion, connection, and love. By the time Howl's moving castle reaches its final moments, something subtle but powerful has happened. The film has taken us through a fantastical world, only to reveal that its most extraordinary elements are not the spells, beings, or transformations, but the emotional truths embedded within them. The real magic, the kind that lingers long after the credits roll, exists in the quiet spaces between the characters. Their vulnerability, their growth, their willingness to see the good in one another despite fear and uncertainty. Sophie's journey teaches us that strength can be soft, persistent, and deeply human. Her transformation is emotional long before it becomes physical. Howl's arc reveals the courage required to confront one's inner monsters, those fears that consume us far more than any external enemy. Even Calcifer embodies the film's message. Magic rooted in connection is infinitely more powerful than magic rooted in dominance or ambition. Ghibli's brilliance lies in its ability to meld the whimsical with the meaningful. The studio's films don't simply use magic as a spectacle, they treat it as a language, a way of expressing inner turmoil, longing, joy, courage, and love. Howl's moving castle may feature flying battleships and shape-shifting wizards, but its heart belongs to moments like Sophie quietly mending Howl's coat, or Howl giving Sophie a flower field where time seems to pause. These scenes remind us that enchantment isn't always found in dramatic gestures, sometimes it's found in simple acts of care. What makes the film unforgettable is how personally it speaks to its viewers. Anyone who has felt inadequate, overwhelmed, afraid, or undeserving can see a piece of themselves in Sophie's shifting form or Howl's unraveling composure. Anyone who has sought comfort in chaos can feel the warmth of the moving castle's hearth, and anyone who knows the transformative power of compassion will recognize it as the film's final and most profound spell. In the end, Howl's moving castle doesn't just show us magic, it teaches us to recognize it within ourselves.